This is the Debbie and Dr. Rob Show, episode number 60. We're going to be talking about the missing piece in your law of attraction practice. If you're trying to create a new life, a new result in your mind, but hitting a roadblock, maybe you'll discover the missing piece today in our show. So get ready to take some notes and get your imagination turned on because this is going to be a great episode. So let's get started. This is the Debbie and Dr. Rob Show. You are in the right place if you are tired of the basic self-help and you're ready for a higher level of teaching in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. We offer world-class personal development and coach training for evolving women entrepreneurs to help you go to the next level of growth in success, relationships, and living your purpose. So let's get started. The law of attraction, Dr. Rob.
Oh, yeah.
We're coming back again.
It's still around. Well, these are laws. They never go away just because the fad passes or the culture changes. But let's talk about it.
Before we begin, I do want to mention that we have, if you listen to our podcasts and you appreciate all the deep concepts that we introduce on Jungian psychology, spirituality, and philosophy, we are having an amazing event coming up in January called Alchemy.
In LA, no doubt.
In Los Angeles at the beach. And we would love for you to attend. It's for women only who want to make a big change in their life. We're going to be working with the 4 feminine archetypes, the warrior, the priestess, the mother, and the lover, and also the inner Adam to help you create in a bigger way and your greatest dreams in your life and really transform yourself and seeing yourself in that power of a woman that's available to you.
Yeah, and I got to hand it to you for developing the psychology in that direction where it really, let's say, it becomes applicable to women in today's world with everything that's going on.
Yeah, I've read a lot of books, a lot of the women that studied under Jung, a lot of Jung book, and a lot of it is therapy, like healing your wounds, and women have to go to this dark place to this dark feminine, and it just doesn't feel like a very motivational, inspirational journey, and it actually is. There's so much available to us, and we have to spend more time in that imagination and in that creative place that we have naturally as women. And the world needs us right now. The world is, in trouble. We need to save the planet. We need to shift the power in corporations and politics and becoming leaders to change the world and make it a better place.
Yeah, and Jungian psychology is so perfect for this. Jung himself was training a lot of women in his time. And a lot of them were lay people, meaning they weren't necessarily physicians or psychologists. They were people who really were ready to transform their lives and then go out into the world and do these amazing things.
And I really do think this psychology is perfect for women. It's a spiritual psychology really designed for women because we are naturally imaginative and naturally creative and use all the faculties of our intuition already. So what we need to do is just acknowledge our power and be the wisdom that we are. And so that's what the event's about, is about transforming ourselves from that small version of who we think we are to step into the woman of power, strength, and presence that impacts the world and leads other women to make an impact on their world. So ripple effect. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, so if you're ready to join our community, come
Alchemy
experience
in January.
Alchemy in LA.
So speaking of creating as a woman, the law of attraction, we talked about another show on the law of attraction. We talked about the science around it and how it works. And today we're going to talk about what people who've tried to use it or tried to use creative visualization and thinking positive, and they're like, you know what am I doing wrong? This doesn't seem to be working for me. And so that's what today's about, and really some powerful concepts we're going to introduce.
Yeah. So first of all, what is the law of attraction? Let's define it for those people that haven't heard us speak on this topic. First of all, we see it more as a principle. There's a principle in the philosophy of mind that says that mind is the cause, and what we see out there as the result is the effect. So if you think in physics, cause and effect, something causes something else to appear or to move. Mind is that cause. The effect is the result that you get in your life, whether it's relationships, work, spirituality, whatever it is. Always the mind is the cause.
I remember the first time I heard this concept, the thoughts create your life. It was mind-blowing to me that I have a say in what my life is like. I didn't know that there was a law of attraction.
Yeah. And a lot of people misread it because of the word attraction. So it makes it sound like we're talking about a magnet, that you're pulling something from the outside in. And that's unfortunate because that's not really what's happening. Again, because we're talking about mind, everything already exists. The universe essentially exists as infinite possibilities, and then it's our perception of it, our attention, our individual consciousness that collapses things into the way we see them.
And we see them the way we expect to see them.
Absolutely.
What we've learned how to see.
Yes. So, of course, we have to, let's say, use the typical everyday language just to make sense, because if we speak in that kind of oneness way of speaking, it won't make sense.
Well, another thing, too, when I first learned about the law of attraction, even as a hypnotherapist, I was thinking, I'm going to change my client's mind. I'm going to put them in that relaxed state, and I'm going to feed them different thoughts, and their mind is going to start thinking those thoughts. It's like, putting something in their mind that wasn't already there, like a very mechanical idea. And then the mind is going to start to think differently. And then like energy of the thought of the energy is going to go out into the world and bring back its match. And that's kind of how people describe it. But if you think about consciousness and even what they discovered in quantum physics, that's not how consciousness works or how reality is. So if you feel that way, then of course you would feel this kind of disconnectedness or disempowerment, because you're thinking, here I am, little me with my tiny little thoughts in my little head, and I'm going to send them out into the universe, this vast universe, and then hope that it comes back to me and I do it right. So it's a very powerless place to be. So I prefer the way I know now, which is that it's perception.
Right. It's a more accurate way of seeing it, meaning of perceiving it as perception. So let's put out all the elements, and then we'll break it down into how it works.
So there's 3 things we need to create something. Whether what we want or we don't want, the 3 elements are, the first is desire, the second is expectation, and the third is action. So let's talk about desire.
Yeah, desire, it is the starting point because it originates in the mind. Mm-hmm. And remember, mind is the cause. In other words, you won't experience it, you won't create it if you cannot conceive of it in your mind. It has to start in your mind. The mind, you can think of it as the portal from which everything emerges in the world.
So if you think about desire, would it be safe to say that desire is kind of like the emotional energy that you're putting into something? Because desire could be like a fear, like I desire not to be poor, or I desire not to be alone.
Right. Most people do not, let's say, manage their mind well. And so their mind is running on autopilot. And so it's simply creating the same thing they created yesterday. That's the law of kind of conservation. It conserves energy by simply saying, well, what helped me survive yesterday? Let's just recreate that again, because there's no new orders, essentially, it's just the same pattern.
So it's a desire. If you have a desire, it's kind of like baby hope. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see if that.
No, that's expectation.
Okay, we're not there yet. Okay,
right.
So you can either look at, one thing I heard once back in my early days of studying how the mind works is that the universe doesn't know the difference between a wish and a fear. And so, when you think about desire, ask yourself, is it a desire for growth or to, have a great experience, or is it a desire to push away something? And what we typically do when we're desiring not to be alone or desiring not to have struggles with money or not to be in the corporate world anymore or not to get that, stay in the same job or not to have conflicts with people, like that, what we end up doing is we end up creating the opposite, because what we're using the desire, focusing on what we don't want versus what we do want.
Yeah. And so how do we use desire? Let's say in the simplest form, we create a clear vision of what we want, as clear as possible. So clarity is one of the main principles of using the law of attraction. In other words, you have to define what is it that you want, what is it that you're after. And again, if you observe your mind, most of the time, the mind will not be very focused. It will be all over the place because it operates on the principle of keeping you safe and looking out for what's new in the environment, what's different, so that it can keep track of your safety and make sure you survive. So there's nothing new if you don't engage in the process of clarifying your vision, using your imagination, which is a higher faculty of mind, to create something new.
And we just, and then you do that, if you know that you had the power using your imagination, then you would use it. But most of us weren't taught when we used our imagination as kids.
We were punished, actually.
Yeah, and we were punished to have desires. Like, I'd like ice cream. No, you can't have it. You can't have
too much ice cream.
Yeah, you can't have too much. You can have a little bit. But it was almost like, every parent, even know how loving they are.
Oh, right.
They say no to you sometimes to your desires.
Yeah, I read a study somewhere that by the time you're 3 years old, you've heard no like 20 million times.
Oh my God. So we're programmed not to desire anything and be grateful for what you have. And there's starving children all over the world that need help, need food, and you should eat your veggies. And
yeah. So now here's the principle. I mean, we don't want to desire just, to fill ourselves with food and candy and ice cream, like I said, and
sex and
right,
money, sitting on piles of money. And
so we have to use, obviously, again, our higher faculties. So we want to desire the good, meaning what is beneficial for our growth, for our personal development.
Like a higher level of our expression.
Yes. Secondarily, what is beneficial for people around me? How can I help others?
How can my desire for myself to be greater serve others and impact and inspire others too?
Yes. If you use those principles, then your desires will always be on target.
If it's selfish desire or kind of the fearful, you're doing it for lack. It doesn't have any magic to it.
Yes. So keep that in mind. You want to desire the good for yourself and for others. You want to be consistent. Now, here's where a lot of people go off the rails also.
Off the rails.
Well, let's say they know what they want, but they don't consistently hold it in their mind. So as soon as they run into an obstacle, they want something different. They scale back. They say that was too hard, or that was too difficult, or I couldn't make it happen. Instead of saying, wait a minute, the principle is that the mind creates, it's the cause, and then it will manifest out there, right? Or I'll see it out there. And so if you drop that, if you drop the ball because a little hiccup, you're starting over now. You have to now, again, create the vision and sustain it. So 2 principles: clarity and consistency.
And having it be a higher desire.
And be in alignment with those higher principles of good, the good. Yes.
So that you have this desire, everyone has a desire, pick one, pick a desire, and make sure it has those qualities, and then you're going to be clear and consistent in holding that vision. So it's always good to do at least once a day or twice a day is perfect, is to just spend 5 minutes visualizing that desire being realized.
Yes. And now we come to where really the missing link in most people's practice.
Yes.
Expectation. You have to expect it. So if you think of a cat waiting for the mouse to come out of that little hole, right? They're focused. They know that mouse is going to come. In other words, they're not doubting. They're not sitting there and wondering.
They're being very patient.
They're saying, I'm ready and focused. And they know if I hold my mind steady and focused, I will get what I desire, essentially. If I don't, right? If I turn my head to this shiny little thing over here, I might miss my chance. You have to focus. You have to use that expectation and be very clear of what is it that you're expecting.
So focus in not clarity, but focus is more consistent holding the vision. And I think a lot of people, they have the desire, they do their visualizations, and they go out in the world, and then things aren't showing up. And then that kind of anticipation of that desire coming true starts, it's like chips away at that expectation. And the longer it takes, the more we are like, well, I don't know if it's going to happen. And the doubt starts to creep in, and then we start expecting it's never going to happen. And I don't know, I've been visualizing all this, and why isn't it showing up? And, this doesn't work, or I'm not good enough, or so that expectation turns into, you expect your worst case scenario versus the best case scenario.
Yes, that's a good point. Actually, most people operate under the principle, again, of I'm just going to wait to see what happens. And therefore, the expectation is, I don't know what's going to happen. And therefore, that's what they perceive. Because they're saying to the universe, I expect to see these random things appear, but I don't have any definite preference for anything. And so
they desire without expectation.
Well, an expectation without desire,
yeah.
I'd say. Because now they're open. They know something's going to happen. Something happens every day, but they don't have a clear vision of what is it that they want to happen.
Well, yeah, they expect something. They just don't have...
Yeah, they don't have
they don't expect their desire to come
exactly. They haven't focused their desire, and so there's no vision. And without a vision, the people perish, meaning you're simply going to exist in survival mode.
But I think there's just a tweak on that is that the desire, like it's that expectation of believing that you're like kind of putting it together, that my imagination, when I hold the vision in my mind, I expect it to show up out there.
Yeah.
And you expect it without evidence of that result yet. And I think a lot of people, what they do is I'll see it when I believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm doing Wayne Dyer's book. It's like, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. You know, when it shows up, when the check comes in the mail, when the guy shows up, the ideal partner, then I'll believe that, my vision will be a reality. But until then, it's just really hard. And I remember reading Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich, and he says that the most arduous task a man can take, or woman, is that to hold the mind in the vision of what they want, expecting it to happen, even when the adverse situations are showing up. It's like a mental muscle that we have to hold. So that's what you're saying, is that clarity of desire, a clarity of expectation.
Well, let's say clarity of vision and then intensity of expectation.
So the expectation is the feeling?
The surety that it's going to come.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there's a feeling to that.
Absolutely. There's an intense feeling. It's just like that cat. That cat is intently waiting to receive his desire.
His little dinner. And the poor mouse is expecting the cat to jump on him, so it stays in his little hole. Yeah.
But it's a feeling, and it's the expectation, essentially. So now we have 3 principles: clarity of vision, consistency of vision, and intensity of expectation.
So the desire is the clarity of vision and consistency of vision. And then, because there's three. And then the expectation is
with intensity. Right.
So we have the desire, which is the clarity and the higher vision. The expectation, which is the feeling of, assume, the assumption is, yes, this is mine. It's like you have to assume it's going to happen before it does. And the feeling of, and then how do you get into that feeling, is you feel how it would feel to have that expectation fulfilled. You know, when I went to a long time ago, when I was a hypnotherapist, someone asked me to speak at her workshop or whatever, and it was all women. And she's like, "Tell me, Debbie, what are your unfulfilled dreams?" And I said, "All of my dreams have been fulfilled." I said, "I just haven't lived into them yet." And she said, "Wow, that's a good answer." And it's like this idea that we have these unfulfilled dreams. Already is saying it may happen or may not. And it's that certainty. And so how do we expect the certainty then? How do we know, like what mechanism can someone use to expect that result when they have no evidence? I've never had a love of my life. I've never made a lot of money. I never had, started a business. I never, did that before. How can you be so certain that this expectation can be realized?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the higher knowledge. Mm-hmm. So higher knowledge is understanding the way the universe really works, right? So if you're putting your faith on external circumstances, you can believe very intently that things are going to work out for you, and maybe they will. Mm-hmm. Right? We see a lot of people that create a lot of stuff with that principle, and they seem to be doing okay. But what they're doing is they're creating out of false pretense, because again, they're putting the cart before the horse. They're saying things exist out there independent of my mind, and then I'm drawing them in, with my work and my activities.
That if I work harder, I get more success.
That's lower knowledge. Mm-hmm. Now, you can create a lot and become perhaps wealthy doing those kind of things.
Like if I show up at work, I'm going to get a paycheck.
Yes. But it will not lead you to happiness, to real enlightenment, to freedom. You'll always be bound by and conditioned by those things that you get.
Lowered expectations.
Well, the things will own you in a sense, instead of you seeing them as serving you, you will be serving those things, and you'll be caught up in that drama of always serving the material world. And in higher knowledge, what it does, it corrects the misperception where you're able to understand that your mind is the one that's creating your results.
So when you say higher knowledge, what would someone who doesn't know what that means, how would they learn higher knowledge? I mean, there's a lot of texts that could talk about this.
Yes, higher knowledge comes essentially from wisdom traditions like the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching. There are Western systems. I mean, we can go on,
but Eastern philosophy or lots of the Eastern traditions talk about the mind and consciousness. And
yes, but essentially the principle that we're talking about in the law of attraction is that the mind is the cause, and that the results that you see out there are the effect.
So if you want to get better at expecting, fine-tuning that is to study Eastern philosophy.
Right, because
for me, it's been very helpful.
Right, because it becomes then clear in your mind how the nature of reality works.
Yeah, you're not just making it up or fantasizing about it.
Yeah.
Another thing, too, is Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill, he based a lot of his research on Eastern philosophy. So it's not like this separate secular thing that only, certain people read and everyone else is thinking something else. It's basically a part of the common knowledge. So that would be something. So we have desire. Say we have a desire, we're clear on it. We know it's a higher desire. It's something that's going to serve others, not only myself. We're going to expect it to happen. And then the third step is action, because action is really how we receive the desire. It's not going to ring on the doorbell, come in the mail. Well, it could come in the mail, but
yeah. Again, we put action at the end because that's where it belongs. The world puts it up front, and they think, I got to rush around and create something, and so that's why you see the freeways, right? They're always buzzing, people rushing around. They're thinking, I got to go out there and create it. Got to go pound the pavement, they say.
I know a lot of business people I watch, they really talk a lot about all the action you have to take and all the marketing you have to do, and the very externalized, very get your funnel right, get your branding right, do social media in a certain way, and then you're going to get the result. It's like dating tips. You're learning, how to write a profile to get the right person. It doesn't work that way. That the action is just it's like kind of like the bow at the end of the whole process. It's just kind of like something that we just do intuitively to receive. And Buddha says that action expresses priorities. So a lot of times people have a desire, say they want to start a business, but they don't expect really to be successful. So the action they take, or they probably either don't take action at all, or they take it in a way that's kind of desperate because they don't expect it. So they're fearful in their action, and all of that going together gives them a result that doesn't work, even though they started off with a desire. But like you say, they go off the rails with expectation and action. So when you take action, what it does is it feeds back to that desire and that expectation of, because you don't act to get something unless you expect something, usually. I always tell people that if I'm coaching them and they're like, I'm not sure if I can create my life. And I'd say, well, why would you hire me as a coach if you didn't think you had any power? Must be a part of you that believes you have a power, or you wouldn't even bother doing this. So you have to hang on to that little piece. And if you don't, if you expect things to come in, you will do actions that you would not really believe they're really outside of your comfort zone. They're really things that people would say, why would you do that? A lot of the things that people do outside of their comfort zone, the average person would be like, why would you do that? But if you expect success, those actions seem very reasonable.
That's right. So to recap, we have the law of attraction, which is really the law of perception, like we were saying. It's already there. We're simply perceiving it, allowing our mind to perceive it. We talked about desire. And in using desire, we have to create a clear and consistent vision. A clear and consistent vision. Now, once we have a clear and consistent vision, expectation has to be intense.
Like we have to really fully in our gut believe, expect it to happen.
That's right. We're focusing our attention and we're expecting it to arrive and expecting it with faith, like you said.
And I like that idea, too, that using your will toward yourself, all the energy that you're using, it's not exerted in the action, like that rushing, going out there and getting it. It's that exercise of the mental muscle, of holding your mind. It's like meditation where they say you're disciplining the mind. That's really what we're talking about.
And finally, we do take action. In other words, we're not just sitting, meditating, and holding the vision. We know
writing checks on a wall.
Yeah, it requires action, but the action is simply to receive the vision already created. And
I think sometimes when we take action, that seems a little risky, but we know we have the expectation. It's that risk that actually fuels that expectation a little more, because we try to, like, it's easy to go to the kitchen and turn on the faucet and expect water to come out. That action is anyone can do. But someone to, step outside or leave the corporate world and start a business and, really take an action that really is something that people would be like, what the heck are you doing? Why are you taking such a risk? That it opens up a new world, because you're in the physical world confirming your expectation. So your action can confirm and reinforce that expectation, or it could chip away at it.
One parting thought.
Okay.
Never expect a thing you do not want, and never desire a thing you do not expect.
Okay. And so think about what you want, make it a higher vision, expect it to happen, and fuse that expectation with feeling as if you have it already. And then what action would you take if you knew you were going to get it, if you absolutely were 100% certain that you are getting what you want? What actions would you take toward it? And the action itself, it doesn't matter which action. A lot of people say, well, I don't know what to do. As long as you take any action, you'll be guided to that. Something else will show up. When you step outside, you take that step, it's like the universe brings you everything you need to guide you. So just taking that first step, Goethe says that. You just have to take that first step and everything will flow from there. It has boldness in it when you do that. But if you take the step without the holding the vision and having the expectation, you're doing it backwards. And that's, I think, where people they're separating the vision from the action. All right. Well, what a great show today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you love our show, we would love for you to leave us a review. We need some more reviews, so we'd appreciate those. Let us know how we're doing. Join us at our podcast group, the Debbie and Dr. Rob Show, and let us know what you think of the show. If you have any questions and any suggestions for future shows, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
And again, lastly, if you are in the LA area or in the U.S. and are interested in attending Alchemy, come visit our website, ask for a free consultation, talk to someone on our team to find out more about it, and come meet us in person. We'd love to see you. Create some great things.
See you there.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Debbie and Dr. Rob Show. To find out more about us, you can visit us on our website at debbieandrob.com. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play. We'd love to see you on every show, and thank you so much for joining us. And we hope you remember to believe in your biggest dreams.